The Christmas tree lights cast a warm glow across my parents' living room where 31 family members had gathered for our traditional holiday celebration. Wrapping paper scattered the floor around the massive tree, and the familiar sounds of children playing with new toys mixed with adult conversations about work, travel plans, and New Year's resolutions. I sat on the sofa near the fireplace, quietly opening presents and listening to the comfortable chaos that defined these annual gatherings. My sister Amanda, 35 and perpetually confident about her business acumen despite a series of failed ventures, stood near the mantelpiece addressing the room like she was making an important announcement to assembled shareholders. She wore an expensive red dress that complemented her carefully styled hair and professional makeup, maintaining the polished appearance she'd cultivated since completing her real estate license program 18 months ago. Before we finish opening presents, I have some exciting family news to share, Amanda declared, raising her wine glass to ensure she had everyone's complete attention. The room gradually quieted as relatives turned from their conversations to focus on her presentation. I've made a major decision about the family's real estate investments that will benefit everyone involved. I continued unwrapping a book from my aunt while listening to Amanda's build-up with the patient attention I'd learned to maintain during her frequent announcements about new business opportunities and strategic initiatives. At 32, I developed the habit of staying calm and observant during family gatherings, particularly when Amanda was preparing to reveal one of her entrepreneurial plans. As you all know, Kevin owns that little duplex rental property on Maple Street, Amanda continued, gesturing toward me with her wine glass. It's been generating steady income for a few years, but honestly it's not being managed to its full potential. The property could be producing significantly more revenue with proper marketing, tenant screening, and maintenance coordination. My cousin Robert, who worked in commercial real estate development, nodded with obvious interest. Property management is definitely specialized work. Are you talking about taking over the management responsibilities? Amanda's smile broadened as she prepared to reveal what she clearly considered a masterful solution to underutilized family assets. Actually, I've decided to take full ownership of the property. Kevin's never been particularly interested in real estate investment strategies, and I have the professional expertise and time to maximize the property's value. The casual announcement of property theft hung in the air for a moment before several relatives began murmuring approval. My Uncle Tom, who owned 2 rental properties in the suburbs, actually nodded with appreciation. That makes a lot of sense. Real estate requires active management and industry knowledge. That rental property is mine now, Amanda declared with obvious satisfaction. Finally, someone who understands real estate management instead of just collecting checks. The room erupted in enthusiastic support for Amanda's decision. My mother clapped her hands together with genuine delight. This is wonderful. Amanda has such a good head for business, and Kevin's always been more interested in his government work than property management. My father nodded approvingly from his recliner near the tree. Smart family planning. Why let a valuable asset sit underutilized when someone with real expertise can maximize its potential? Cousin Jennifer, who had recently completed her MBA, looked genuinely impressed. That's excellent strategic thinking, Amanda. Property ownership requires dedicated attention and professional management skills that not everyone possesses. I opened presents quietly and peacefully, maintaining my calm expression while listening to the family's overwhelming support for Amanda's announcement. They had no way of knowing that my little duplex was registered with the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network as a monitored asset under federal security protocols, or that any unauthorized ownership transfers would trigger automatic investigation procedures. Amanda had just announced her intention to commit federal property fraud involving assets belonging to someone with top-secret security clearance. What the family saw as practical resource allocation was actually a confession to serious federal crimes that would result in years of federal prison time and permanent criminal records. My work as a senior intelligence analyst with the Department of Homeland Security's Financial Intelligence Unit required comprehensive disclosure and monitoring of all personal assets, including real estate investments. The duplex had been purchased through official channels with full federal oversight, and its ownership was protected under multiple security protocols designed to prevent exploitation or compromise of sensitive government personnel. The property transfer paperwork is already in progress, Amanda continued, basking in the family's admiration for her business initiative. I've been working with a real estate attorney to handle all the legal details. Kevin doesn't need to worry about any of the complicated procedures. My grandmother, who had always worried about my financial planning and investment decisions, reached over to pat my hand with obvious relief. This is such a blessing, dear. Amanda will take good care of the property and make sure it generates proper income for the family. Uncle Tom raised his beer bottle in an impromptu toast. Here's to Amanda's real estate expertise and Kevin's contribution to family wealth building. Smart asset management benefits everyone. The extended family joined the toast with genuine enthusiasm, celebrating what they believed was an example of effective family cooperation and strategic resource utilization. I was surrounded by 31 relatives who had just applauded federal property fraud while congratulating both the perpetrator and the victim. The current tenants are month to month, so I'll be able to implement proper lease agreements and market rate pricing immediately, Amanda explained with obvious professional pride. I'm already researching comparable rental rates in the neighborhood, and I believe we can increase the monthly income by at least 40%. Cousin Robert leaned forward with clear interest in Amanda's business strategy. What's your timeline for the ownership transfer and management transition? Everything should be finalized by the end of January, Amanda replied confidently. The legal documentation is straightforward since it's staying within the family. I've already started marketing the property to higher quality tenant prospects. The conversation continued with Amanda receiving detailed questions about her management plans, renovation ideas, and income projections. She had clearly researched the local rental market and prepared comprehensive answers about property improvements, tenant screening procedures, and long-term investment strategies. What she hadn't researched were the federal laws governing unauthorized transfer of monitored government employee assets, or the automatic investigation protocols triggered when protected property shows signs of potential compromise or fraud. As the evening progressed, Amanda continued receiving congratulations and business advice from various family members. She explained her marketing strategy for finding premium tenants, described her plans for property improvements that would justify higher rent, and shared her vision for expanding into additional real estate investments using the duplex as a foundation. After the presents were opened and dinner was served, Amanda pulled me aside in the kitchen while other family members were watching football and playing with children's new toys. She was slightly flushed with wine and the excitement of family approval, and her earlier professional confidence had shifted into something more genuinely enthusiastic about her real estate venture. Kevin, I know this might seem sudden, but I've been thinking about this property transition for months, she said, adopting the patient tone she used when explaining business concepts to people she considered less sophisticated about financial matters. You've never shown real interest in property management or real estate investment strategies, and I have the professional training and industry connections to maximize the asset's potential. I continued drying dishes and loading them into the cabinet, maintaining my peaceful demeanor. I'm sure you've put considerable thought into all aspects of this decision, Amanda. She seemed encouraged by my calm response and lack of objection to her unauthorized property seizure. Exactly. This is really beneficial for both of us and the entire family. You can focus on your government work without worrying about tenant issues, maintenance problems, or market fluctuations. I'll handle all the complex management responsibilities and make sure the property generates optimal returns. I hung up the dish towel and turned to face her directly. I hope your real estate venture proceeds according to your expectations, Amanda. Her smile widened with obvious relief that I wasn't going to create family drama by objecting to her perfectly reasonable business arrangement. I knew you'd understand once you thought about it logically. The property transfer will be handled professionally through proper legal channels, and I'll make sure you receive detailed reports about income and expenses. Monday morning arrived with the crisp December air that made Washington, D.C. feel particularly official and governmental. I arrived at the Department of Homeland Security building by 7:20 a.m. to begin another week of analyzing financial intelligence reports related to terrorist financing networks and money laundering operations targeting critical infrastructure. My position as a senior intelligence analyst required maintaining comprehensive awareness of financial crime patterns that might indicate threats to national security. The work involved coordinating with FBI counterterrorism units, Treasury Department financial intelligence divisions, and CIA analysts tracking international money flows that could support hostile activities against the United States. At 10:33 a.m., my secure phone buzzed with a call from my immediate supervisor, Deputy Director Sarah Martinez, who oversaw our financial intelligence analysis section and maintained direct communication with senior leadership about potential security threats. "Kevin, I need you in my office immediately," Deputy Director Martinez said with the tone that indicated a significant security matter had developed overnight. "We've detected unauthorized activity involving your personal assets that triggered automatic threat assessment protocols." I walked through the secured corridors to Deputy Director Martinez's office, passing the classified briefing rooms where other analysts were preparing intelligence reports for senior policymakers. Her office featured reinforced windows overlooking the Potomac River and sophisticated communication equipment for coordinating with other federal agencies. "Sit down," Deputy Director Martinez said, activating additional security measures that ensured complete privacy for sensitive conversations. "Our automated monitoring systems flagged attempted ownership transfer of your rental property by someone claiming family authorization." She opened a classified file containing copies of legal documents that showed Amanda's signature alongside forged versions of my signature on property transfer agreements. The transfer was initiated by Amanda Johnson, who represented herself as your authorized family representative with power of attorney to handle real estate transactions. I reviewed the documents, which clearly showed Amanda had submitted comprehensive paperwork to transfer ownership of my duplex to herself, including falsified authorization documents and fraudulent property transfer agreements with multiple government agencies. Deputy Director Martinez, Amanda Johnson is my sister. I did not authorize her to transfer ownership of my property or represent herself as my legal representative for any real estate transactions. Her expression shifted from procedural concern to serious security focus as the implications became clear. "So this is property fraud targeting a senior intelligence analyst with access to classified financial intelligence. That triggers immediate FBI involvement and potential national security investigation protocols." She secured the documents in the classified file. "Kevin, I need to ask directly. Did you have any knowledge of your sister's property transfer activities or any discussions about family real estate arrangements?" "I learned about Amanda's intentions at our family Christmas gathering when she announced to 31 relatives that she was taking ownership of my property. Most family members congratulated her on her business acumen and strategic resource utilization." Deputy Director Martinez stared at me with the expression of someone who had overseen financial intelligence operations for 12 years and still encountered new examples of criminal behavior combined with complete ignorance about federal security protocols. She announced federal property fraud at a family Christmas party with multiple witnesses present. 31 witnesses heard her declare ownership of my monitored federal asset. Several relatives specifically praised her for understanding real estate management better than I did. She reached for her secure phone to initiate coordination with federal law enforcement agencies. "Kevin, this requires immediate federal investigation under enhanced security protocols. Property fraud targeting intelligence personnel could indicate broader security threats or compromise attempts." At 2:45 p.m., Special Agent Michael Sullivan from the FBI's Counterintelligence Division arrived at DHS headquarters to coordinate the federal investigation. Agent Sullivan specialized in cases involving potential threats to intelligence personnel and had extensive experience with crimes targeting government employees with access to classified information. "Agent Johnson, I understand your sister has attempted unauthorized transfer of your monitored property," Agent Sullivan said as we met in a secure conference room equipped with additional counterintelligence protection measures. "Given your access to sensitive financial intelligence, we need to determine whether this represents isolated criminal behavior or potential hostile targeting of intelligence personnel." I provided a detailed account of Amanda's Christmas announcement and the family's enthusiastic support for her property seizure plan. Agent Sullivan took comprehensive notes and asked specific questions about family members who had knowledge of my government employment and security clearance status. This could represent either simple criminal fraud or a more sophisticated compromise attempt using family members as unwitting assets, Agent Sullivan observed after reviewing my statement. "We'll need to conduct comprehensive investigation of your sister's activities, associates, and potential connections to hostile intelligence services." He closed his notebook and looked at me with the serious expression reserved for potential national security threats. We'll be executing federal search warrants at your sister's residence and business locations within the next 2 hours. Given the national security implications, this investigation will proceed under enhanced protocols with full counterintelligence support. At 5:12 p.m. my personal cell phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen. Kevin, federal agents just surrounded my house with black SUVs and official badges. Her voice was panicked and confused. They're saying I committed federal crimes involving national security violations and property fraud targeting intelligence personnel. I was completing my daily intelligence reports and preparing classified briefings for tomorrow's coordination meeting with FBI counterterrorism analysts. Through my office window, I could see other federal employees leaving the building after completing their Monday casework and security reviews. That sounds very serious and concerning, Amanda. What specifically are the federal agents telling you? They have warrants for everything. My computers, business records, financial documents, and correspondence. Her voice was becoming increasingly shrill with fear. They're asking about property fraud, unauthorized asset transfers, and potential compromise of classified personnel. 4 federal agents had indeed arrived at Amanda's residence at 5:07 p.m. 2 FBI agents from the Counterintelligence Division, 1 DHS investigator from our Internal Security Section, and 1 Treasury Department criminal investigator. They carried comprehensive federal warrants authorizing seizure of all materials related to the property fraud and potential security violations. Amanda, I said calmly, maintaining the same professional tone I used when briefing senior policymakers about national security threats. You announced at Christmas that you were taking ownership of my property without authorization. That constitutes federal property fraud targeting a senior intelligence analyst with access to classified financial intelligence systems. But it's just family real estate management. I thought family members could help each other with property investments. Federal law doesn't recognize family relationships as authorization for fraudulent property transfers involving monitored government assets. You committed serious federal crimes targeting someone with access to sensitive national security intelligence, which triggers enhanced penalties and mandatory counterintelligence investigation. The line was quiet except for her increasingly panicked breathing and the sound of federal agents explaining comprehensive search procedures and national security protocols. Kevin, you have to stop this. Tell them this was all family cooperation and business planning. I cannot stop a federal investigation with national security implications, Amanda. You committed federal property fraud targeting classified intelligence personnel, admitted to those crimes in front of 31 witnesses, and potentially compromised security monitoring systems designed to protect sensitive government operations. Agent Sullivan's voice could be heard in the background, explaining federal arrest procedures and the enhanced penalties that apply when crimes target intelligence personnel with access to classified information. They're asking about my real estate clients, business associates, and anyone who might have knowledge about your government work, Amanda said, her voice breaking as the full scope of her situation became apparent. They want to know if anyone encouraged me to target your property specifically. Amanda, you should cooperate fully with federal agents and retain qualified federal criminal defense counsel immediately, I replied using the same measured tone I employed when coordinating with law enforcement agencies about sensitive intelligence matters. Providing false information about crimes targeting national security personnel will result in additional charges for obstruction of justice and false statements to federal investigators. At 7:18 p.m., Amanda was formally arrested and charged with federal property fraud, wire fraud, attempted theft of monitored government assets, and violations of federal security protocols protecting intelligence personnel. She was processed at the federal detention facility and held under enhanced security procedures pending arraignment. The charges were comprehensive and carried severe penalties. Property fraud targeting intelligence personnel triggers enhanced sentencing guidelines designed to protect national security operations. Wire fraud involving monitored government assets carries potential sentences of up to 20 years in federal prison. The security protocol violations added additional penalties because Amanda had potentially compromised systems designed to protect classified intelligence personnel. The real estate attorney Amanda had hired to process the fraudulent property transfer faced immediate investigation for their role in facilitating crimes against intelligence personnel. Their law license was suspended pending federal investigation, and their practice was shut down while authorities determined the extent of their knowledge about the property fraud scheme. Amanda's real estate license was immediately revoked when state authorities learned of her arrest on federal charges involving property fraud and potential national security violations. Her real estate practice was permanently closed, and her professional liability insurance was voided due to criminal activity. My family's reaction was predictably supportive of Amanda and critical of the federal government's overreaction to what they still characterized as family property planning, rather than serious federal crimes with national security implications. My mother called repeatedly, demanding that I fix this situation by explaining to my supervisors that Amanda's actions were motivated by family cooperation rather than criminal intent. She couldn't understand that federal property fraud cases involving intelligence personnel require mandatory prosecution regardless of family relationships or claimed motivations. At Amanda's federal arraignment, she appeared in federal court wearing detention clothing and looking exhausted from her time in enhanced security holding. Her court-appointed federal defender advised her that the charges were extremely serious and carried mandatory minimum sentences due to the national security implications. Federal prosecutors presented extensive evidence including Amanda's recorded admissions at the Christmas gathering, testimony from 31 witnesses who heard her announce the property fraud, detailed financial records showing the attempted unauthorized transfer, and expert testimony from DHS officials explaining federal monitoring systems and security protocols. The federal judge denied bail entirely, citing national security concerns, flight risk, and the potential for additional criminal activity targeting intelligence personnel. Amanda would remain in federal detention until trial, which was scheduled under expedited procedures due to the counterintelligence implications. During pretrial investigation, federal agents discovered that Amanda had researched my government employment and security clearance status more extensively than she had initially admitted. Her computer records showed searches for information about DHS personnel, federal employee asset monitoring, and methods for transferring government employee property. The additional evidence suggested potential premeditation and raised questions about whether Amanda's actions represented isolated criminal behavior or part of a broader scheme to compromise intelligence personnel through family exploitation. 12 weeks later, facing overwhelming evidence and potential sentences exceeding 15 years in federal prison, Amanda accepted a plea agreement to avoid even longer sentences after trial. She received 6 years in federal prison followed by 5 years supervised probation with permanent restrictions on real estate activities. The federal judge ordered restitution of $134,000 to cover federal investigation costs, counterintelligence review expenses, enhanced security protocol implementation, and administrative costs for comprehensive background reinvestigation of potentially compromised intelligence personnel. During sentencing, federal prosecutors explained that crimes targeting intelligence personnel carry enhanced penalties because they potentially compromise national security operations and require extensive counterintelligence investigations to ensure classified information remains protected. My position at DHS was unaffected by Amanda's criminal activity, though my security clearance underwent comprehensive review and my asset monitoring was significantly enhanced as a standard precautionary measure. Federal security officials conducted extensive counterintelligence investigations to ensure that Amanda's crimes hadn't compromised any classified operations or intelligence sources. The family Christmas tradition was permanently altered after numerous relatives received federal subpoenas as material witnesses in national security proceedings. Uncle Tom, Cousin Robert, and 12 other family members were required to provide detailed testimony about Amanda's admissions and the family's reaction to her criminal announcements. Several relatives faced their own security investigations when background researchers discovered that other family members had made inappropriate inquiries about my government work, security clearance requirements, and federal employee benefits over the years. I continue working at DHS analyzing financial intelligence related to national security threats and terrorist financing operations. My duplex remains registered under enhanced federal monitoring as a protected asset subject to the highest levels of security oversight. The difference is that family gatherings are now limited to immediate family members who have undergone security interviews and signed agreements about appropriate conduct regarding my employment and assets. Amanda won't be eligible for release until she serves her complete federal sentence under enhanced supervision. My parents occasionally request that I provide financial assistance for Amanda's legal fees and commissary expenses. I explain that federal employees cannot provide financial support to family members convicted of crimes targeting intelligence personnel, and that any such assistance would jeopardize national security and result in severe career consequences. They don't understand that Amanda's conviction permanently restricts her from real estate activities, professional licensing, and most forms of business employment due to the national security implications of her crimes. Last month I received a letter from Amanda at the Federal Correctional Facility where she's serving her enhanced security sentence. She wrote that she's beginning to understand the severity of targeting intelligence personnel with property fraud, but she still doesn't comprehend why family property management resulted in federal prison and permanent career destruction. I haven't responded to the letter. Federal employees are prohibited from maintaining correspondence with individuals convicted of crimes targeting intelligence personnel, and my security clearance requires complete avoidance of contact with compromised family members who have threatened national security operations. Family Christmas celebrations are now limited to security-cleared immediate relatives who understand the restrictions surrounding my employment and assets. The duplex continues generating rental income under enhanced federal protection, exactly as it should for property belonging to someone with access to classified financial intelligence. Amanda's real estate career ended permanently with her federal conviction for targeting intelligence personnel. Her attempted property fraud was added to federal databases as evidence of potential compromise attempts against classified government operations. Some lessons about national security law and the consequences of targeting intelligence personnel can only be learned through federal imprisonment and permanent security restrictions. Amanda is receiving comprehensive education about the enhanced penalties that apply when family members attempt to exploit or compromise classified government personnel. The property remains exactly where it belongs, under the highest levels of federal protection as a monitored asset belonging to someone with access to sensitive national security intelligence systems.